Here's an interesting project. This is the body of a Gibson ES 125 from, I believe, the mid-50s. Customer brought it to me because it had water damage, and the top and the back in a few areas were separating from the sides, and the binding was loose. We had to remove the neck in order to get the top and back re-glued, and the neck was loose anyway. And we discovered something very interesting. I don't know, maybe this was a normal thing, I just haven't been aware of it. But when we took the neck off, we saw all this movement at the back end of the dovetail, and after giving it just the mildest of push, discovered that the head block was actually not one solid piece of wood, but was made up of, I think there are 4 in there, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more pieces of wood that were all glued together and made the entire head block. Obviously, when the guitar was caught in a flood, all of the glue that held these pieces together failed. So we're in the process of making a new head block. And instead of doing laminates, we're going to use a solid piece. So we've got just a solid piece of mahogany. This little wedge on the top came off of these pieces, and there's a wedge just like it on the back side. So we removed the pickup, and we're going to feed this block through the pickup hole and pull it firmly against the remaining pieces of head block, which all look to be very solid. I don't see any sign of those 4 strips delaminating. So that's what we're going to do. I first want to wrap this pickup in something to protect the finish on the guitar. Then we'll get out our scope and show the inside of the instrument before we actually glue in the new block. So here we are looking at the head block from the inside. This is the dovetail joint. That's the bottom. So that's the back of the guitar, and this is the top of the guitar. You can see this strip right here is the wedge, like I showed, that we were going to glue to the top side of the block. There is no wedge visible on the soundboard side because that one peeled off with water, but this one is still firmly attached. So when we put the new block in, we've got this wedge that will butt up against the curving surface of the soundboard. What else? You want to take a look at a brace?
Sure.
See how they look. We've already checked that they're intact. There's no sign of those separating from the soundboard, which is nice.
If I can find a brace.
It can be a challenge. There's one of the parallel braces. It almost looks like they use flat sawn wood, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
You can see the grain lines running parallel with the soundboard.
Right.
That's
weird.
Well, Gibsons aren't always the best. And they, I'm sure, used whatever wood they could salvage.
Right.
Anyway, it has 2 parallel braces. So, since we have the scope out, we might as well show you that.
So this is the setup we're going to use in order to insert the new head block and then put it under compression so that the glue will be able to set properly and attach the new section of the head block to the original. So what we've done is disassembled a spool clamp, and then Gary drilled a hole through the middle of the head block, the new section of head block, and we're going to use that to pull this section up against the original section of head block that will apply some glue to, so that when the new section comes into place, it'll be gripped by the glue, and then we'll put it under a compressive load and let it set for a while, and that should be the ticket. Now, we've dry fitted this on numerous occasions and adjusted the thickness so that it's a snug fit. We don't want it to be overly tight because we don't want to squeeze all the glue out. We're going to use epoxy, and epoxy doesn't like to be over compressed. It actually has better attachment characteristics if you don't squeeze it too hard. So we've made sure that although it's a snug fit, it's not an overly tight fit. Interesting thing to know about epoxy. Sometimes people like to really put a lot of clamping pressure on their glued pieces, but epoxy doesn't like to be over clamped. It loses some of its adhesive properties when it's over clamped.
And then once we get that block back in, we can re-glue all the bindings. We've already glued the top and the back to the sides, so we'll get the bindings re-glued and put the neck back on, and that'll be it. So the glue is all over. We're going to feed in the block. That's the top. Put it back out a little. You can do the wing nut because it just seems to work better when one person is doing that part.
So we came up with a slick little U-shaped brush to try to apply glue to the interior surfaces of the existing head block, which worked horribly once we actually tried to do it. So I ended up just loading up my little finger with epoxy and reaching in there and swabbing it around. So now what I've just done, if you want to do you want to take a picture of this? What I've just done is
Hang on.
we've just pulled that block into place now. You can see it.
Yeah, probably not very well. It's dark.
There you go. So you can see the block in place. And if you look down at the bottom, you can definitely see a little glue ooze out. And I think we've got some some evidence of some glue contact up at the tops and sides. So,
Yeah, I'd say.
yep. So now that we have the block basically pulled into place, I'm just advancing this wing nut, which takes for frickin' ever. And then we'll put the block under compression, and that will hold the new segment of the head block into place until the epoxy glue dries, which it probably has by the time I get that one. Okay. Could have used a coarser thread, I guess.
Well, it's what I have.
It's what we have, right?
And it's probably has years of accumulated glue on it.
It just takes some time.
Yeah.
There we go. Now we're almost where we want to be. That looks pretty yummy.
Yeah.
So now we'll just let that sit for a fortnight, and well,
Maybe not a fortnight, but one night.
yeah, let that glue set up and hard, and then we'll be ready to put the neck back on.
Yeah, after we glue the bindings.
Right.
But that's a pretty minor thing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that was it. Just, we thought the laminated block part was worthy of a little video, because I've never seen that before. Okay, thanks.